Hello everyone, I'm Meena Gopal. Welcome to Global Express, where we take a closer look at events in our backyard that have an impact on India and on its neighborhood. This week, we are drawn to a Balochistan that is clearly on the boil. The largest province in neighboring Pakistan, simmering these many years over how its resources do not benefit the Baloch people, has erupted in a surge of violence on August 25th, 26th. Some 14 security personnel apparently died in the attack, and the attack was carried out by a female suicide bomber. Her name was Baloch. Key infrastructure was damaged. The separatist group Baloch Liberation Army has claimed responsibility. So why these sudden uptick in violence from the Baloch Liberation Army? Why are there women in the forefront of this insurgency? And don't these attacks, latest attacks at least, raise questions about Pakistan's government's claims that the insurgency has been weakened and that for all effects this could be an intelligence failure? And where does it leave the development of the key port of Gwadar and the China-Pakistan economic corridor, gas and oil reserves in the province? Pakistan has, of course, blamed its neighbors, conducting tit-for-tat strikes in January against Iran for the bases on the border, pointing fingers at India's involvement, and the Taliban government in Afghanistan for its support to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and its alleged backing of the BLA. So, talking to us today are three very well-known experts on the region. Dr. Naseer Dashti, a native of Balochistan, who's a writer and historian. His books focus on Sindh and Balochistan and Central Asia. They include the Baloch conflict with Iran and Pakistan, the Baloch in Balochistan, an historical account from the beginning to the fall of the Baloch state. Welcome, Dr. Dashti.
Thank you.
Also with us is Mr. Avinash Mohananey, a well-known Pakistan-Afghanistan expert and writer and columnist who served in Pakistan and in Kashmir when he was with the Intelligence Bureau. He's interrogated the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar, who's been in the news after his Netflix series on the Kandahar hijacking of IC-184, which became a huge story. One day we'll have to talk about this, Mr. Mohananey.
Yeah.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Nina.
So I'd like to give each of you 5 minutes to start, make your opening remarks. The big questions that need to be addressed are where this insurrection is headed, whether this continuing crackdown is going to see a stepped-up confrontation, and why is it that the ordinary Baloch, as much as the Sardars who head this largely tribal society still, some of whom hold government posts, are unable to meet each other halfway? Shall we start with you, Dr. Naseer Dashti? What role do they play today, the tribal leaders, as opposed to the young people who seem to have taken on this whole rebellion and revolution and who have made daily comments about the fact that Balochistan's wealth, which should come from its oil and gas fields and its mines, does not percolate to the ordinary man?
Sardari system is now redundant in Balochistan. It exists only in the Pakistani state's narratives about the Baloch problem. The Baloch insurgency, as it is called, but according to the Baloch, they call it their national liberation struggle. And it goes back to the creation of Pakistan and the occupation of Balochistan by Pakistan in 1948. So from 1948, Baloch have been expressing their will to regain their sovereign state, which at that time was called Khanate of Kalat. But because of various international political phenomena after the Second World War, Baloch were unfortunately without any external support. And it is said that without any external support, no nation can get independence. But with their limited resources, they first rose against Pakistan in 1948. And that struggle was led by the younger brother of the Khan of Kalat, Aga Abdul Karim. It was crushed And the political party that existed at that time was Kalat State National Party was banned immediately after the occupation of Kalat by Pakistani forces. Then in 1958, there was again a movement to regain some sort of autonomy, and it was led by the Khan of Kalat, Mir Ahmadiyar Khan. But in fact, it was Khan of Kalat was used by the military establishment of that time to have a martial law in Pakistan in 1958, and the main reason was told to the nation that Balochistan, the Khan of Kalat, is trying to break Pakistan with the help of Afghanistan and India, and that was not true. Khan of Kalat was arrested, humiliated, and his palace was bombed, his mosque was bombed, and there was a small-scale rebellion or uprising in Jalawan region of Balochistan, which was led by an elderly tribal chief, Nawab Noroz Khan. And later, the Mangal tribes also joined in this uprising. That was also not successful, and now Noroz Khan and his family members, colleagues were hanged in 1962. And Baloch leadership of that time, Sardar Ataullah Mangal, Nawab Khair Bakhshmari, and Nawab Akbar Bukti were arrested. And then there was a pause in the Baloch armed national resistance, but there was political resistance led by National Awami Party. In 1970, the Pakistani establishment made a blunder and they announced a general election. And because of the results of that general election, the Bangladesh became independent. And in Balochistan and frontier, for 9 months, the establishment was forced to give government to National Awami Party-led governments. And in Balochistan, Sardar Ataullah Mangal became the chief minister, and Mir Yusuf
But his government was also dismissed, wasn't it, in 73?
Yeah, after 9 months, the government was dismissed, and the Baloch leadership were accused of planning to liberate the whole Balochistan, including Iranian Balochistan. And they termed it as the movement for Greater Balochistan. And on this accusation, the whole Baloch leadership of that time was imprisoned, and a treason case was initiated against them. And that was the Hyderabad conspiracy case. And they were tried in Central Jail, Hyderabad. But
was there any truth, Dr. Dashti, to this charge that it was that they were pushing for the creation of a greater Balochistan?
No, there was not such a fact truth in it, but the Pakistani government somehow managed to produce some armed cache in the Iraqi embassy in Islamabad, and they blamed that it was for the use of the armed resistance group of an underground organization called Baloch Liberation Organization. And they blamed the Baloch leadership of that time that they are leading this underground liberation.
And could you come back to 2006 when when it's sort of boiled up again with Nawab Akbar Bukti choosing to take the
and early 2000, there became a development in the Balochistan horizon, and that was the announcement of the military government to develop Gwadar, the deep sea port. At that time, it was the contract was given to a firm from Singapore. China
I
was
see.
not there at that time.
Hmm.
And the various ministers of the military government, they announced publicly that Gwadar will be a deep sea port and we will develop the coastal belt and we will settle 2.5 million people in this region. So with this announcement by the prime minister of that time, that alarmed the whole Baloch people, including their leadership. So they made a four-party alliance,
I see.
and included in this alliance were Sardar Ataullah Mangal's Balochistan National Party, Nawab Bukti's Jamhuri Watan Party, Nawab Khair Bakhsh Circle, which was called at that time Haq Tawar, Voice of
Hmm.
Truth, and the Baloch National Movement. So that was called the four-party alliance, and they began political agitation, demonstration, rallies, conferences that we have to secure our Sahel and Wasail, the resources and our sea line. That was the one point
And
agenda.
is that when the crackdown started on the various leaders and people?
Yes, then the army reacted this political agitation because the rallies were being held throughout Balochistan under the leadership
Mm.
of this four-party alliance. And
Yeah,
Nawab Bukti was vocal, and he was also demanding the mineral resources of Balochistan to the benefit of the Baloch people.
that's right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
ultimately, they murdered Nawab Akbar Bukti on 26th August 2006. First, they bombarded his house, his town in Dera Bukti, killing many people, women and children. Then, after a few months, he was also murdered. So that was after the murder of Nawab Bukti. Then the crackdown began throughout Balochistan.
Is
When
that when his son also took refuge in Europe? Ramdak Bukti and
Ramdad
uh,
Bukti and the son of
Ataullah
Nawab
Mengal.
Khair Bakhsh, they first went to Afghanistan, and
Hmm.
the son of Nawab Khair Bakhsh Mari, Balach Mari, was killed in Afghanistan,
That's right. Yes.
and Nawab Ramdak Bukti, son of Nawab Akbar Bukti, then went to Switzerland, and he is still in Switzerland.
Geneva. Yes.
Yeah.
So all of these. So all I was trying to actually get a handle on that and see that when these leaders left Balochistan and chose to take refuge in other countries, who was the face of this leadership? Because I also read while I was researching your book that in 2009 there was also, or was it 2006? I'm not sure. When there was a move to sort of reach out to the government and end all the hostilities. But there was no response from the government, and therefore it was restarted in 2009.
Actually, after the elections in 2008, there was a so-called civilian government. There has been no civilian government in Pakistan's history, but they claim to be civilian government. And army asked their proxies in Balochistan to negotiate with the exiled leaders, but because they were not ready to give any of the demands of the Baloch people, so it was just a futile
It was an
exercise.
empty gesture. If I can bring you in, Avinash Mohananey, there was a very sort of strange comment made by the interior minister recently, who said that militancy in Balochistan can be controlled by a station house officer. I mean, it seems a major misread of, I feel, of what is happening in Balochistan at the moment, because the actions of the counterterrorism department and the state agencies and the state-sponsored death squad seems to have really angered the young people, particularly the way that women have taken over have become the face and the forefront of these protests. Mothers and sisters are coming out to protest over the disappearances after their male relatives have been put in jail, or they find that their dead bodies that are returned to them. Is it is it a smart move on the part of the Baloch Liberation Army? I mean, or whoever the rebels are led by? Because
Yeah.
firing on women will obviously, not be seen as the right thing to do.
First, about the comment of the Pakistan Interior Minister, he has unfortunately trivialized the whole issue. The issue is, and first thing is that issue is not a security issue. Secure issue is of the rights of the Baloch people on their resources, on the to be considered as a citizen of Pakistan, where they get equal opportunities for education, health, they get opportunities for employment. Those are not available. And as Mr. Dashti said, the governments in Balochistan are all preordained or pre-decided or tailor-made. If you see the way Sarfaraz Bukti moved from caretaker government, resigned, it was very clear that he is going to become the next chief minister of Balochistan. So these elections carry no meaning. So neither they have the democratic right nor they have the economic right. Their identity is in crisis because they are being overwhelmed by the large population in Punjab and Sindh and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So this is a serious issue which requires a deft handling rather than making a fun of it or making it a purely security issue. And the simple reason being, Mahal Baloch, who carried out suicide bombing, was just only about unmarried and very young. But the lady who committed suicide bombing, killing Chinese academicians at the Confucius Center in Karachi, she was mother of two.
To the mother of two. Yeah.
It's not easy for any woman or any man to carry out such kind of a suicide bombing. There has to be a very compelling narrative on the other side,
In fact,
substantiated
all
by the
three.
facts and substantiated by the grievances.
That's right. But all three of the suicide bombers have been women so far, except the first one who was a young man. I also found it intriguing that there is such enormous sympathy worldwide for the Palestinian cause, for the Palestinians who are being arrested in Gaza and, bombed in Gaza, and the others who've been arrested in Israeli jails. Why is there not a similar wave of sympathy for the hundreds of Baloch young men and women who are facing this kind of thing? Is it because, I mean, the number that I've read that the Baloch people are claiming is that 40,000 of them are in custody, but the official count is as low as 3,000, if you say according to one person, while others are saying it's only 300. So, Dr. Shri, if I can come back to you, do you think it's because you don't have your movement has not caught the imagination of the world? The plight of the Balochis does not seem to be, important enough, or is it because America is keeping it under, doesn't want it to blow up in Pakistan's face, or is it China? What is the reason?
Yeah, there are two obvious reasons. You gave the example of Palestine. Palestinian people are supported, or they claim to themselves to be Arabs. And the Arabs have vast resources of petroleum and gases in their country. So there is no free lunch in the politics, in the world politics. You give something, you get something. So the all cries about Palestine, whether the Palestine cause is legitimate or not, this is debatable, but the Western world is trying to get a portion of flesh from the Arab wealth, that is oil and gas. So they are playing a double game. Some people from the Western government, they say, oh no, there are human rights violations and that should be stopped. The others, they are practically doing the opposite. So, and the other reason is we must realize that Pakistan was created by the British Empire. There was no movement, actual movement, although now they have fabricated the history that people were demanding Pakistan. There was no demand by the genuine population of Balochistan or Sindh or Punjab or frontier province.
For Pakistan,
For
really?
Pakistan, only some Bengali Muslim intellectuals and political leaders who were on the payroll of East India Company, and then they were amalgamated in a party called Muslim League.
That's
India
right.
League. And they
This
were
is
vocal, literally, politically, intellectually for Pakistan. And this Pakistan was created only and only to safeguard the interest of the British Empire, who was at that time the guardian of the Western interest in this region. After their withdrawal from India, they wanted a base, a physical base. The technology was not so advanced at that time. They needed physical presence. And they created Pakistan for their Bengali supporters and Punjabi army. They were very loyal from 1857 onward. The militant supporter of British Empire were Punjabis. They were recruited in the British Army and Indian Army. And intellectual support was given by Bengalis and some hired intellectual and Muslim leaders from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, from
Very
Hyderabad.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Mr. Mohananey, do you agree with this kind of analysis of where the call for Pakistan came from?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I find it very intriguing.
No, absolutely. I agree with him totally. Because Pakistan's demand was created by the Britishers only. The first name coining perhaps was done by Chaudhry Rahmat Ali in London when he was there. Then we all know how the Second World War changed the direct course of the domestic politics in India, and the Britishers were extremely happy with it. Look, they needed, the Britishers needed a
Kind of a
buffer
book
state
against Russia. A buffer state
against
Russia.
Russia.
That's
Because
right.
whatever we may
Soviet
say,
Union.
the biggest event that influenced the world history in 20th century was Bolshevik Revolution of 1970. That changed because then the Russia also withdrew from the First World War. So that changed everything, every equation on the world stage, and then Russia became a threat to the. Even before that, during the Tsar period, also the Russian Empire was a threat. But then the ideological state formed after 1917 became a kind of threat to the ideological state that was Britain, US, and this of capitalism, and there they had communism.
Yeah. What is this two-nation theory? What is the origin of this two-nation theory? It was not originated by any Muslim scholar or something. It was originated in the military camps of British Army in Cairo and in Calcutta. Calcutta was at that time the capital of the British colonial empire in India.
Yes, true.
Yeah,
So the new player on the game is clearly Beijing, because it's Beijing that sees Gwadar as a
yes,
strategic connect from Central Asia into the Persian Gulf, into the Arabian Sea. So I'm very curious, given the upsurge in the terror attacks and the fact that Chinese engineers, etc., were directly attacked, and especially, railway lines are being blown up, other key infrastructure points are being attacked. Does does China still see Gwadar as a safe bet? I mean,
yeah,
the question for both of you.
yeah. I will come to the Chinese later, but I think that this term terror attack is the language of the
Yes,
Pakistanis.
okay, we'll amend that. We'll
Yeah, the
amend that.
Baloch think that they are struggling for their honor and dignity and sovereignty. So,
Yeah.
and the Chinese, I think CPEC, to be honest, is now redundant
You're saying
because
the China-Pakistan economic corridor is redundant?
Pakistan is not the client state of China. Pakistan is the client state of the United States and its cousin, the United Kingdom. Every Pakistani politician, every Pakistani general, every Pakistani bureaucrat, half of their families are based in Europe and North America. Every penny they get from their exploitation in Balochistan and Sindh and other parts of Pakistan, they are not deposited in China. They are deposited in the Western capitals. So this China CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor was a filtration by the military establishment, and China became trapped in it. Although they are very, very wise nation for thousands of years, but they have been trapped in this CPEC thing. They gave Pakistan nearly 40 billion loans, and
That's
now
right.
they are struggling to get them back, and Pakistan is denying because Pakistan has no interest, no stakes in China. First, they get the money and the promise that they will give Gwadar as a naval base to China. But with a strong reaction from United States and the UK, that did not materialize. And no one can think of that the United States or the UK will allow either Russia or China to enter Gwadar. They are obsessed with deep hot waters or Indian Ocean,
Warm water
either
ports.
penetrated by Russians or Chinese. So, and today, although they got many fundings to create a separate military division to secure the CPEC routes, but now nobody is talking seriously about CPEC in Pakistan, although it
That's very interesting.
damaged the Baloch hugely. And one of the reason for the murder, disappearances, and so many other miseries of the Baloch was because of the CPEC, because the Baloch reacted strongly that first they were occupied by the British for 100 years, then 70 years by Punjabis, and now the Chinese. So they began to resist it with all their power, and they felt insulted the way they are being treated, and that is the answer of your question, why the women or the young girls, they
Yes.
are, they are doing such things. This is the extreme feeling of humiliation they feel while they see how they are being treated. There's one thing that Baloch self-respect is part of their socio-cultural ethos, which is still
Mm,
there.
mm.
And
That's
they're
right.
the manifestation of this.
So, Mohan, if I could come to you on this tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan, I mean, a lot of this of the attacks are being blamed on the fact that Afghanistan is, is the base for a lot of the Baloch, activists who've sought safety there, and Pakistan's military is, now literally fighting a battle on numerous fronts. It's not just the attacks on the infrastructure within Balochistan. It's also in on the border with Afghanistan, where the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan apparently are working in tandem with the Baloch Liberation Army. Is that something that you agree with?
Look, first I will partly answer the earlier question that why the people are so angry about the Gwadar. You see, for the safety of the projects, for the safety of the Chinese people, a lot of barricades, fencing have been erected in Gwadar. Now, even the local people have to show their identity card to forces from outside who don't understand their language and tell them that, look, we are local. I have to go from A place to B place or B place to C place. And it's very not possible. Second thing, the apart from the restriction, the Makran coast, deep sea mining, deep sea fishing has been given to the many Chinese companies who have used the thin nets and cleaned all the marine life,
Hmm.
thereby killing the daily livelihood of the Baloch fishermen. So those are also serious issues on which the protests were being held even before Maharang Baloch reached Gwadar. The protests were still going on in some form or the other. Now, as far
Yeah.
as Afghanistan's thing is concerned, I will tell you that, look, Afghanistan problem with Pakistan is that Pakistan army thinks that Afghanistan has become a client state. We helped them, we did this to them, we were at every stage. So they treat that this is our backyard and how dare the Taliban don't deliver. And this is what has angered Taliban. They see themselves as the de facto rulers, although the government is not recognized. They feel the de facto rulers, they want their own sovereignty and they don't want dictation from anyone. So
Hmm.
that is causing problem. And problem with the Taliban is that the Taliban had co-opted TTP, had co-opted other groups also for fight against the Americans. Now,
Hmm.
when the Americans have left, they can't ask them to just leave this place and go and die in Pakistan. So
But
they
you
tried.
yourself have written, Mr. Mohananey, that a lot of the arms that the Baloch activists are using has come from the stash of weapons that the Americans have left behind.
Yeah, TTP is using those weapons frequently, and we have found those weapons now in Kashmir also. The
Oh,
same
I see.
the same M4 rifles that can be fitted with the night vision devices. This is a very deadly weapon that can be used, and these are the weapons of American infantry. So these are American weapons, and naturally, Americans left in a hurry. They didn't account for single weapon because they didn't require those weapons that didn't cost much. These weapons were given to the Afghan National Army to fight against the Taliban. The
Yeah.
Afghan National Army either sold them or gave it to Taliban. So there is a lot of free availability of weapons. So naturally, when Pakistan's ISI can acquire it and pass it on to the terrorist groups which are operating on in Kashmir, then of course the TTP also has those weapons, and the Baloch separatists also will be possibly.
Dr. Dashti, if I can come back to you on the Baloch rebels, connection with Iran. I mean, there is a Sistan Balochistan province which is right on your border, and apparently there is a lot of coming and going across the border. Is Iran, turning a blind eye to it, or is there actual support for this? Because there's also the Greater Balochistan theory, right, which says that Balochistan wants to have a Greater Balochistan, which would include Sistan Balochistan.
I think there are two aspects of this Iran question. First is the Baloch people were divided by the British in 1873 by several boundary commissions, and Baloch families are divided between Pakistan and Iran. Baloch tribes are divided between Pakistan and Iran. And although Iranian and Pakistani government are trying to stop cross-border communication between the Baloch, but it is impossible because it is a very long border and it can't be fenced.
But sir, if I can just butt in for a minute and ask you, in January of this year, there were tit-for-tat missile and airstrikes by both Pakistan and Iran. So, so Pakistan has...
That is the another aspect. One was the link between the two Baloch of the two sides, and no Baloch can say that you are Iranian Baloch or Pakistani Baloch. They consider Balochistan as a single entity and the Baloch nation as a single entity. Thus, the other aspect is a proxy war, led by CIA through ISI and funded by the Saudis. And the other is in retaliation, the Iranian government also are supporting some of the people who they think that they can use against Pakistan. So that is a proxy war, but it is not for the whole Baloch in Iran that they are involved in this proxy war. So Iranian Baloch, politically motivated Baloch, they consider Balochistan as one, and they consider Baloch nation as one nation.
That's very interesting. We've only got 5 minutes left, so if we can make a conclusion, there have been very strong charges by Pakistan of Indian involvement, Mr. Mohananey, saying that India is stoking this rebellion as well. So if you can give us a little insight into how much of that is true and how much of it is fiction, and and if Dr. Dashti could give us a view of what we can see in the future, because we've had Sardar Akhtar Mengal now resigning as MNA and saying that he doesn't want to have anything more to do with it because his voice can't be heard. So I'll leave you to make concluding remarks.
Look, the allegation of India being involved in Balochistan is not new. It has been going on for years, from beginning with the 48 that India is involved there. The issue is, I don't know whether we are involved or not involved, because we don't have anything specific, any evidence of the same. But the problem...
What do we stand to gain also?
Yeah,
by having Balochistan in trouble.
The issue is that if Pakistan can put its home in order, then no external power, even if it is India or any other external power, they can do nothing there if the house is in order. But that doesn't seem to be. So, and this is wild allegations of anything happening that India is involved or Indians' hand is there. But what I'm worried about the whole thing is that it will only strain relationship between India and Pakistan. Because if you weave this narrative in the masses, then you can't ease relations with India. Because now you have said that the Balochistan also India is involved, or everywhere India is involved, then it becomes very difficult for any government, whether it's Shahbaz Sharif or whether Asim Munir, to have some improvement in the ties between the two countries, which is essential to have peaceful South Asia.
That's a good point, actually. Very good point. So, Dr. Dashti, could it spread out of Balochistan? I mean, can the Shahbaz Sharif government and Asim Munir actually, look at ways of containing it, or do you think the Baloch rebels are intent now on, on getting what they want, which is basically some kind of rapprochement with the government, or will there be no talks at all? Because they're talking about the fact that there could be some kind of reach out by the moderate leaders who run Balochistan at this point. But all of that seems to have taken a tumble with the August 25th, 26th spate of attacks, because they actually held Balochistan to ransom for 20 hours at a stretch.
I think there are lots of stakes involved for the military establishment in Pakistan that they can't give concession to the Baloch people so that a negotiated settlement could be achieved. Billions of dollars, billions of rupees are daily they are earning from Balochistan through smuggling, through drug trafficking, through manipulation to get something from the allocated provincial budget of Balochistan. So the Pakistani establishment can't afford to give any negotiated settlement to the issue. This will continue. Neither the Baloch will surrender, nor the Pakistani army can afford to give some kind of
Concession.
Or autonomous region status or some kind of hold on their own resources. So this will go on.
So you don't see this arriving at a conclusion. You're saying that could actually see to more confrontation.
More confrontation, more bloodshed, and it depends how much Pakistan will get money from the West. If they get money, they will continue. And if they collapsed financially, then there might be some chances of a negotiated settlement. But for the few years, for 5 years, I don't think Pakistan will collapse altogether. But the process is on. It can collapse. It might collapse suddenly, like the Soviet Union. It might linger on. But now the West is keeping Pakistan in a limbo. Neither it is in hell nor it is in paradise. So it is in between. So anything can happen. It is a very volatile, fluid situation. What will happen to China-America relations? What the United Kingdom ultimately decides to leave its illegitimate son, or what is the thinking of the Indian government, because India can influence some sort of influence on the policies of the United States and the UK, because they have been newly allied together. So let us see what will happen to the confrontation, Chinese-American confrontation, American-Russian confrontation, and how far India can influence policies in this region to their allies, the United States and the United Kingdom.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dashti. Thank you, Mr. Avinash Mohananey, for joining the program. So the strategy of the Baloch rebels is clearly changed. It's now a far more sophisticated insurgency that not only hits government infrastructure, CPEC projects, but has moved from Quetta to Karachi. So let's see where this change will lead Pakistan. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
being part of this program.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.